Hello everyone. Today we will discuss about the skeletal muscle part 2. Excitation contraction coupling. Now I told you before only that particular muscle has mainly two phenomena or the two properties, that means the excitation and the contraction property. In the excitation, action potential is being generated in a particular muscle when it is stimulated, while contraction mainly occurs when the particular stimulus acts on a particular muscle, right? So they mainly form the excitation contraction coupling phenomena. Now if you remember, I told you in my previous NM junction video that a particular end plate potential over here is actually generated when a particular nerve fiber actually over here, as you can see, this is the nerve fiber and this is the motor end plate. Okay, presynaptic membrane, postsynaptic membrane. So particular end plate potential actually generated when a particular stimulus is actually acting and a particular impulse travels from the nerves into the this sarcolemma or the muscle membrane, right? So particular end plate potential generated and this will travel in the sarcolemma only. Now this end plate potential, if you remember, I told you that it should be more than minus 60. Normal RMP value of particular muscle is minus 90 around. Okay, but it should reach, but because of the depolarization occur because of this end plate potential, so the depolarization actually reaches the RMP or changes the RMP from minus 90 to minus 60 or 65. Okay, but this EPP is not propagating and this EPP is non-propagating, and so because of this more and more sodium ion will actually has to come inside the this muscle membrane, and so the more positivity of the depolarization of the action potential of the muscle membrane will actually cause the propagation of the particular impulse inside the membrane, will actually cause the contraction of the particular muscle. Now after this electrical phenomena or the transferring of the impulse from the nerve to the muscle, what will happen actually is that now whatever the impulse actually came from the nerve will actually transmit from the sarcolemma inside the muscle. Now this is made done by the sarcotubular system. The T tubule will actually send this impulse inside the muscle fibers. Okay, inside the muscle. Now when this action potential reaches the tip of the T tubule over here, now over here if you remember, these are the L tubules, and on the membrane of the T tubule there were DHP receptor, dihydropyridine receptor, okay, which actually activates the RYR, that is the ryanodine receptor on the L tubules. So this DHP receptor will actually activate the RYR receptors, and this RYR receptor actually which were closed will actually open now and will release whatever the amount of calcium present inside the L tubule inside the this sarcoplasm of the muscles. Okay, as you can see, the calcium amount inside the L tube actually came out of them inside the sarcoplasm, right? Now what happens is, due to opening of the calcium RYR channels, calcium ion diffuse inside the cytoplasm, as you can see, and the concentration of the calcium in the intracellular fluid actually increased by some of the 2000 times as compared to before. Means this actually caused 2000 times increment in the calcium ion amount in the sarcoplasm. Now if you remember, I told you that the troponin C actually causes the binding. Troponin C actually binds with the four ions of the calcium. Okay, and because of the binding of the 4 and the calcium in a particular troponin molecule, this will cause the binding of the this actin binding site of the myosin with the actin. Okay, so over here, remember, because of binding of the troponin C with the 4 molecules of the calcium, so there will be activation of the particular active binding site on the actin, and because of that the actin actually binds with the myosin and from the particular muscle contraction. Now the very important topic, cross bridge cycling or the sliding theory or the Reshett theory or the walk along theory. Now this theory actually includes 4 main steps. Okay, and these 4 main steps actually occurs after the activation of this particular after the release of this particular calcium in this process. If you remember, this calcium actually released from the L tubules. Okay, and this actually calcium actually attaches to the troponin C of the actin molecule, right? Now first of all, first step is the initiation of the cross bridge cycling. Now what happens is, during the resting stage, if you remember, the troponin I is slightly bound to the actin and the tropomyosin molecule are located in the groove between the strand of the actin filament in such a way that they block the myosin binding site on the actin. And as because of this, during the resting stage, there is no actin myosin cross bridging. So now the tropomyosin complex, we can say that they are the relaxing protein or the relaxing complex which actually inhibits the connection between the actin and the myosin, right? But when they're activated by the connection of the 4 calcium ions with the troponin C, so what happens is there is conformational change actually occurs in the tropomyosin, and this will cause the unbinding of the myosin binding site of the actin, okay, by the tropomyosin. And as because of this, the binding site of the actin for the myosin actually opens, and because of this, what happens is they can be easily binded now. Important thing is that 7 myosin binding sites on the actin filament actually uncovered for each molecule of the troponin that binds the calcium ion. Now next is the formation of the actin myosin complex. Now after the unbinding of the myosin bindings are on the actin, what happens is the head of the myosin molecule actually binds with one molecule of ATP. Okay, and because of the ATPase enzyme present on the head of the myosin, the ATPase enzyme actually causes the ATP hydrolysis and will convert ATP into ADP and PI. And because of this cleavage, whatever energy is released from the cleavage of the ATP is taken up by the myosin head, and that particular energy energizes this head of the myosin and will cause the activation of the myosin head and causes its extension perpendicularly. That means the activated myosin head extends perpendicularly, as you can see over here. Over here, just look at this diagram. This is not perpendicular, but it will cause perpendicular activation of this myosin head, okay, at 90-degree conformation towards the actin filament, and gets attached to the actin filament, as you can see over here. It will get attached because of the high energy conformation or the configuration in it, right? Now because of the formation of actin, myosin, ADP and PI complex, because of the formation complex of these 4 things, 2 main events occurs. What 2 main events? That is the release of the ADP and PI from this complex. Now because of the removal of ADP and PI from this complex, there will be a conformational changes occur in the myosin head, causing it to flex towards the arm of the cross bridge. And the flexion of the myosin head from the high energy 90 degree to 45 degree will cause a mechanical force and will slide this actin in the direction along with its flexion. Now just for easy understanding, just imagine that you are having a lots of books on your head, okay, and if I suddenly take that books from your head, so what will happen? You will move a little, your head will move a little, right? So same thing happens over here. When the ADP and the PI actually gets away from this complex, so what happens is the conformational changes occur in the myosin, and this will cause flexion of this myosin head towards its arm at 45-degree angle and will cause sliding of this head of the myosin on the actin and will cause sliding of this in the particular same direction, and this sliding is known as the power stroke. Now third step is the detachment of the head of the cross bridge. Now what happens is, as the ADP and PI are released from this myosin, so now the myosin will take up one more ATP from outside, okay, and because of the complex formed by the myosin and the ATP, now this complex actually has a low affinity for the actin binding. If the myosin actually binded with the ATP, so it will be having a less affinity for it to bind with the actin. And so as because of it, this causes dissociation or the detachment of the head of the myosin from the actin because of the coming of the ATP. Okay, and this is known as the detachment of the head of the myosin from the cross bridge. Now next is the reactivation of the myosin head. Now whatever the ATP came will again do the same process. Will come will do the cleavage, and then the same whole process will again do, and cycling will occur in this process known as the cross bridge cycle. Now very important changes produced by the sliding theory. Now what happens is the width of the A band remains constant. Remember, the A band remains constant, but the edge zone disappears, right? The I band decreases in the width. The Z line comes closer, which causes the shortening of the sarcomere, of course. And the actin filament from the opposite end of the sarcomere approach each other, and when the muscle shortening is marked, this filament apparently overlaps. Right, now last step is the muscle relaxation. What happens is, within a few milliseconds of the action potential, the calcium pump transport calcium ions present in the sarcoplasm during the contraction back into the longitudinal portion of the sarcoplasmic reticulum from where the calcium ions came for the activation. And as because of the removal of the calcium from the troponin C, there will be myosin binding site of the actin actually blocks, which causes the restriction of the binding of the actin with the myosin. Now the last thing is about the force velocity relationship. Now as you can see, this is the force. The y-axis is the force and the x-axis is the velocity in centimeter per second. This is in the gram. Now the force velocity curve is plotted by noting the velocity of a shortening of the muscle. Remember, velocity of the shortening of the muscle with the progressively increasing the load. Load is increasing with the velocities of the shortening of the muscles, right? Now when the load is 0, as you can see over here, the load is 0. Suppose over here the load is 0, the muscle contracts rapidly. Means in short we can say that the force and the velocity for shortening of the muscle is inversely proportional to each other. When the load is 0, the muscle contracts rapidly and the velocity of the muscle shortening is maximum. Because the load is almost 0, there is no load, and as because of this the muscle contracts very fast, okay, and the velocity of the muscle shortening is maximum of the Vmax. Okay, now as the load increases, what happens is the velocity of the shortening of the muscle decreases. With the further increase in the load, a stage comes when the muscle is unable to lift the load because the force is so much high that the particular muscle is not able to lift the load. At this point, the muscle contracts isometrically. So this was all about the skeletal muscle. Hope you understood it well. Thank you so much.